Okay, today we're building Hazel of the Rootbloom in a new series I'm calling Out of the Box. If you're like me, you've bought so many packs, bundles, and precons over the years that you can probably rebuild any new precon from your collection if you just buy the new cards from the precons as singles out of the box. Rebuilding the precon as Wizards designed it, though, is of course super boring. So instead, we'll create a deck that's completely unique by thinking out of the box, using cards that are in my collection and hopefully in yours. I'm pretty sure you get the idea by now. So, how can we utilize Hazel in a way that's not Aristocrats or Squirrel Tribal? We turn her into a Necromancer, of course. Our commander is Hazel of the Rootbloom, a 3/5 legendary squirrel druid for 2 black-green that says tap her, pay 2 life, and tap X untapped tokens to add X mana in any combination of colors. At the beginning of your end step, create a token that's a copy of target token you control. If that token is a squirrel, instead create 2 tokens that are copies of it. So if we can make a crap ton of tokens, we can use Hazel to make a crap ton of mana. Then we'll use all of that mana to destroy our opponents with swarms of zombies, flying demons, and best of all, their own creatures. First, the fun part of the deck are win cons. Archfiend of Spite is a 6/6 flying demon that says whenever a source an opponent controls deals damage to it, that source's controller loses that much life unless they sacrifice that many permanents. It has madness for 3 and 2 black, but you probably won't need that ability. Demon of Loathing is a 7/7 demon with flying and trample that says whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player sacrifices a creature. Reaper from the Abyss is a 6/6 flyer with Morbid. At the beginning of each end step, if a creature died this turn, destroy target non-demon creature. Kothafed, Soul Hoarder is a 6/6 flying demon that says whenever a permanent owned by another player is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Westvale Abbey is a land that taps for colorless, and you can pay 5 mana to tap it and pay 1 life to put a 1/1 white-black human cleric creature token onto the battlefield. But more importantly for us, you can pay 5 mana, tap it, and sack 5 creatures to transform it. It becomes Ormondal, Profane Prince, a legendary 9/7 demon with flying, lifelink, indestructible, and haste. Aklazot's Deepest Betrayal is a 4/4 flying lifelink bat god that says whenever it attacks, each opponent discards a card. For each opponent who can't, you draw a card. Whenever an opponent discards a land card, create a 1/1 black bat creature token with flying. When it dies, return it to the battlefield tapped and transformed under its owner's control. It's less important, but the flip side is a land that taps for black, and you can transform it back into Aklazot's for 2 and a black, only if a player has 1 or fewer cards in their hand and only as a sorcery. Aklazot's will give us 1/1s to tap for mana with Hazel, but if our opponents discard creature cards, we can use them against our opponents later. Overseer of the Damned is a 5/5 flying demon that says when it enters, you can destroy a target creature, and whenever a non-creature token an opponent controls dies, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. But of course, this isn't enough zombies. Rune-Scarred Demon is a classic. It's a 6/6 flying demon that says when it enters, search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. This can help you search for solutions if you need it and happen to have it in your hand. Burning Rune Demon is a 6/6 flying demon that says when it enters, you may search your library for exactly 2 cards, not named Burning Rune Demon, that have different names. If you do, reveal those cards. An opponent choose one of them, put the chosen card into your hand and the other into the graveyard, then shuffle your library. Now this is a win-win because we can still reanimate or get into our hand whatever creature gets put into the graveyard, which is the second half of our win con, reanimation. Demon of Dark Schemes is a 5/5 flying demon that says when it enters, all other creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. Then whenever another creature dies, you get an energy counter. Then you can pay 2 and a black and pay 4 energy to put a target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control tap. So yes, we'll lose our creature tokens, but in exchange, we'll get the best creatures from any graveyard onto our battlefield. Victimize is a sorcery that'll have you choose 2 target creatures in your graveyard, sack a creature. If you do, return the chosen cards to the battlefield tapped. Bond of Revival is a sorcery that gets a creature from your graveyard to the battlefield and gives it haste. Lich Knight's Conquest is a sorcery that says sacrifice any number of artifacts, enchantments, and/or tokens, return that many creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. Boneyard Parlay is a fun sorcery that says exile up to 5 target creature cards from graveyards. An opponent separates those cards into 2 piles. Put all cards from one pile of your choice onto the battlefield under your control, and the rest into their owners' graveyards. Takenuma Abandoned Mire is a land that taps for black, or you can pay 3 and a black, discard Takenuma from your hand to mill 3 cards, then return a creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. Scavenger's Talent is a saga that says whenever 1 or more creatures you control die, create a food token. It triggers only once each turn. Level 2 says when you sack a permanent, target player mills 2 cards. Level 3 says at the beginning of your end step, you may sack 3 other non-land permanents. If you do, return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. The finality counter has you exile a creature if it would die instead. So you can still return it to your hand, and you won't lose it if you manage to do that. And best of all for me in this deck is Shieldred. I ordered the OG Shieldred for $5 back when Phyrexia came out, and they accidentally sent this version to me, so I kept it. Shieldred is a 4/5 legendary Phyrexian Praetor with menace that says when it enters, each opponent sacrifices a non-token creature or planeswalker. Then you can pay 4 and a black to exile Shieldred and return it transformed under our control. We can activate it only as a sorcery, and only if an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard. If she transforms, it becomes the True Scriptures, a saga that says 1. For each opponent, destroy up to 1 target creature or planeswalker that player controls. 2. Each opponent discards 3 cards, then mills 3 cards. 3. Put all creature cards from all graveyards onto the battlefield under your control. Exile the saga and return it to the battlefield front side up. It's a very mean card, but it is phenomenal for our evil squirrel plans, since it's possible to cast and transform on the same Hazel activation. You just need 10 mana in total, which at the very least would be 5 lands and 5 tokens. The backup plan here is more zombies. Josu Ves Lich Knight is a 4/5 legendary zombie knight with menace, with kicker 5 and a black. When it enters, if it was kicked, create 8 2/2 black zombie knight creature tokens with menace. Army of the Damned is a sorcery for 5 and 3 black that says put 13 2/2 black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield tapped. Then it has flashback for 7 and 3 black, so you can cast it again from your graveyard. Death Tyrant is a 4/6 beholder skeleton with menace that says whenever an attacking creature you control or a blocking creature an opponent controls dies, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Then you can pay 5 and a black to return it from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. If you need to close out a game, you can swing out with your 1/1s, and the ones that die in combat turn into 2/2 zombies. But to get more zombies and help get them through, we have the Wand of Orcus, a legendary equipment that costs 2 and a black with an equip cost for 3 that says whenever equipped creature attacks or blocks, it and zombies you control gain death touch until end of turn. Then, whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, create that many 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. All of these combined add up to a lot of zombies, which can also be used by Hazel to make even more mana. But before we get to those win cons, we need smaller token generators to get us to that point, starting with squirrels. Chatterfang is of course the OG squirrel commander that'll make a squirrel for each other token we make. Then we can pay a black and sacrifice X squirrels to give a target creature plus X minus X until end of turn. This, with the Wand of Orcus, could be devastating. If you swing with a 6/6 demon equipped with the Wand of Orcus, it would under normal circumstances make 6 zombies on its own. But if you have 5 squirrels available, you can make the demon an 11/1, which will make 11 zombies and 11 squirrels if Chatterfang is on the field, and that's insane. Nested Shambler is a 1/1 zombie for 1 black that'll make you X 1/1 squirrels when it dies, where X is its power. Chatterfang will kill it, but we have another way to boost it, which we'll talk about later. Deep Forest Hermit will make 4 squirrels when it enters and give your squirrels +1/+1. It has Vanishing 3, which will make you sacrifice it after 3 turns, but you can bring it back later if you want. Underworld Hermit will make squirrels equal to your devotion in black, and with as many demons that we're running, this can add up very quickly. Chitter Spitter is an artifact that will let you sack a token to put an acorn counter on it. The squirrels get +1/+1 for each acorn counter on it, and you can pay a green to tap it and make a squirrel. Rootcast Apprenticeship is a modal sorcery that says choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. Put 2 1/1 counters on a creature, create a token that's a copy of another token you control, or the target player creates a 1/1 squirrel, or the target opponent sacrifices a non-token artifact. Verdant Command is a modal instant that says choose 2. Target player creates 2 tapped 1/1 squirrels, counter target loyalty ability of a planeswalker, exile target card from the graveyard, and target player gains 3 life. Chatterstorm is a sorcery that will create a 1/1 squirrel and has Storm. And if we can cast a few extra spells with all of the mana that we'll be making from Hazel, this will copy itself and we can make that many squirrels. Finally, we have Swarmyard Massacre, a sorcery that says create 2 1/1 green squirrel tokens. Then each creature that isn't an insect, rat, spider, or squirrel gets -1/-1 until end of turn for each creature you control that is an insect, rat, spider, or squirrel. This can get rid of our zombies, so be very picky about when you cast it. In addition to squirrels, we have Arasta of the Endless Web. It's a 3/5 legendary spider with reach that says whenever an opponent casts an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/2 green spider creature token with reach. Chittering Witch is a 2/2 human warlock that will make 1/1 rats equal to the number of opponents you have, so 3 in a normal game. Then you can also pay 1 and a black, sack a creature to give a target creature -2/-2 until end of turn. Beladros Witherbloom is a 4/4 legendary elder dragon with flying that says at the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 pest token with when it dies, you gain 1 life. You can also pay 10 life and untap all lands you control. Activate only once each turn. But we may not need to use this ability unless we're recovering from a board wipe, and we have the mana to cast Beladros without Hazel. Grist the Hunger Tide is a planeswalker that says as long as it isn't on the battlefield, it's a 1/1 insect in addition to its other types. So we can bring it back since it's a creature in our graveyard. Its +1 says create a 1/1 insect creature token, then mill a card. If an insect was milled this way, put a loyalty counter on Grist and repeat the process. -2 says you may sack a creature. When you do, destroy target creature or planeswalker. -5 says each opponent loses life equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. But now that I'm actually reading and using it, this sounds like a fun insect commander. Now, after creature tokens, we have our token artifacts. Academy Manufactor is an auto-include since we'll be making lots of food tokens. When you make a food, treasure, or clue token, this will make a clue, food, and a treasure instead. You'll get all 3. Fey Offering is an enchantment that says at the beginning of each end step, if you've cast both a creature spell and a non-creature spell this turn, create a clue, food, and a treasure token. If this goes off with the Academy Manufacturer, you're going to end up with 3 of each for a total of 9 tokens. Peregrine Took is a 2/3 legendary halfling citizen that says if 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus an additional food token are created instead, and you can sack 3 foods to draw a card. Savvy Hunter is a 3/3 human warrior that says whenever it attacks or blocks, create a food token and you can sack 2 foods to draw a card. Restless Cottage is a land that taps for black or green, and if you're desperate, you can pay 2, a green, and a black to turn it into a 4/4 horror creature until end of turn. It's still a land, and whenever it attacks, you create a food token and exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. Tireless Provisioner is a 3/2 elf scout that says whenever a land you control enters, create a food token or a treasure token. Glissa, Herald of Predation, is a 3/5 Phyrexian zombie elf that says at the beginning of combat on your turn, choose 1. Incubate 2 twice. That means you create an incubator token with 2 1/1 counters on it, and you can pay 2 to transform it into a 0/0 Phyrexian artifact creature, and you do that twice. You get 2 of those. Your second option is to transform all incubator tokens you control. And finally, all Phyrexians you control gain first strike and death touch until end of turn. So if left alone, this could do a lot of damage as well. And finally, my favorite and probably the spiciest inclusion is Bloodforged Battle Axe, an equipment that costs 1 with an equip cost of 2 that says equipped creature gets +2/+0. And whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, create a token that's a copy of the axe. This can spiral out of control if your opponents can't do anything about the token copies. Then if you stack all of these on that nested shambler, you get 2 extra squirrels for each axe on the zombie. I haven't done that yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. And of course, since those equipments are tokens, they also work with Hazel's ability, which is a huge bonus. Now, to help get all of these wonderful cards into our hand, we're of course including Skull Clamp and Toski Bearer of Secrets for card draw. The Skull Clamp is an artifact for 1 that gives an equipped creature +1/-1, and when the equipped creature dies, you draw 2 cards. All of our squirrels are 1 power, so you pay 1 to kill it and draw 2 cards. And Toski Bearer of Secrets will let you draw a card when a creature deals combat damage to a player. It has indestructible and can't be countered. So if you're just swinging wide with a bunch of different creatures, you're going to draw, quite a few cards that way. But the Slate of Ancestry might be a very powerful option for us also. It's an artifact that costs 4 and has the ability to pay 4, tap it, and discard your hand. Draw a card for each creature you control. You could potentially cast and activate this on the same turn very early in the game, but if you want to wait until you have a lot of creatures on the field, then you shouldn't have a problem running away with the game once you do. That of course isn't really enough card draw, so in addition to the Burning Rune Demon and the Rune Scarred Demon, I have Jared's Orders, which is a sorcery that says search your library for up to 2 creature cards and reveal them, put 1 into your hand and the other into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. Eldritch Evolution is a sorcery that says as an additional cost to cast it, sack a creature, search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less, where X is 2 plus the sacrificed creature's converted mana cost. Put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library and exile Eldritch Evolution. Crop Rotation, Elvish Reclaimer, and Tempt with Discovery will all get Westvale Abbey onto the field. I'm very lucky in regards to this because I can also search up Urborg and both of the Cabal lands for an absurd amount of mana, as if Hazel wasn't making enough already. The removal package I'm using is pretty basic with Casualties of War, Haywire Might, Tear Asunder, and Windgrace's Judgment. After playing a few games, I'm going to fill the gaps for what's necessary in my own group. The ramp package is equally simple with Soul Ring, Talisman of Resilience, Golgari Signet, and Arcane Signet, but I've also added many partings. It's a sorcery that says search your library for a basic land, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle, and you create a food token. Jaheira, Friend of the Forest, is a 2/3 legendary human elf druid that says tokens you control have tap to add green mana. She's a bit of redundancy for our commander. Then the miscellaneous cards to fill the last of our slots are pretty fun inclusions. Vona's Hunger is an instant that will make your opponents sacrifice a creature, but if you have 10 or more permanents on the field, they have to sacrifice half of their creatures rounded up. Saw in Half is an instant that says destroy target creature. If that creature dies this way, its controller creates 2 tokens that are copies of that creature, except their power is half that creature's power and their toughness is half that creature's toughness, rounded up each time. Using this on any of our demons or token makers will be amazing. And as an added bonus, Hazel can make a copy of those tokens to give you even more. Hazel's Brewmaster is a 3/4 Squirrel Warlock with Menace that says whenever it enters or attacks, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard and create a food token. Foods you control have all activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with Brewmaster. Now I have a question for you. In our deck, we have Grist the Hunger Tide, which is a creature if it's not on the battlefield. So does every food created have Grist's activated abilities with the Brewmaster? I mean, I think so, but if I'm wrong, let me know, because if I'm right, that would be a phenomenal combo. However, if you can't get your demons out on the field and all you have are swarms of squirrels and small creatures, we still have a surprise win con that will force your opponents to do something or die. Throne of the God Pharaoh is a legendary artifact for 2 colorless that says, at the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses life equal to the number of tapped creatures you control. So any creature tokens you tap for mana during your turn will also deal damage to each of your opponents at the end of your turn. And if they can't do anything about your board, that damage is going to add up very fast. The final card we're including is Maskwood Nexus. If all of our creatures are all creature types, then cards that care about specific creature types become ridiculous. Wand of Orcus makes all zombies attack or block with Death Touch. Swarmyard Massacre becomes a one-sided board wipe since all of your creatures are insects, rats, spiders, and squirrels. Chitter Spitter gives all squirrels +1/+1 for each acorn counter on it. Deep Forest Hermit gives them +1/+1. Chatterfang sacrifices squirrels to power up or destroy creatures. And best of all, Glissa gives Phyrexians First Strike and Death Touch. And that's it. From here, you just add in your own mana base from whatever you have in your own collection and you're finished. I haven't had the chance to playtest this yet, not really well, but I'm really excited to try this out because I think it has the potential to be absolutely devastating. If the demons don't work out the way I hope, we can swap them out for more zombie support, or if we want to lean into taking our opponent's stuff, there's always Tegrid, God of Fright, combined with Dictate of Erebos and Grave Pact to make the game absolutely miserable for our opponents. But please don't do that unless you want to make them quit playing Magic the Gathering. Let me know what you think about this out-of-the-box deck tech for Hazel of the Rootbloom and what direction you decided to take it. That's all for now. You're welcome.